wondered how big companies manage these massive, sprawling cloud systems without everything just falling into chaos? Well, the secret is often a tool called Terraform. So in the next few minutes, we're going to break down exactly how this super powerful tool from HashiCorp works and why it's such a game changer for literally anyone in tech. Here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll get right to the heart of what Terraform actually is. Then we'll see it in action with its simple 3-step workflow. We'll also unpack the magic of providers. That's what makes it so flexible. And finally, we'll tie it all together and see why this is a must-know tool for any modern development team. All right, let's dive right in. First up, what is Terraform? It's all about this big idea called declarative automation. Sounds complicated, I know, but let's make it simple. So, at its core, Terraform lets you manage all your tech stuff with code. But the real secret sauce? It uses what's called a declarative language. But what on earth does declarative actually mean? Let me show you with a really simple analogy. Okay, this taxi analogy just nails it. The old way, the imperative way, is like you're in the back of a car giving the driver turn-by-turn directions. You manage every single step. But the declarative way, that's Terraform, is like getting in a taxi and just saying, take me to the airport. You just state your final destination, the what, and you trust the driver to figure out the best how. That's exactly what Terraform does. So now that we know what it is, let's look at how it works. Terraform has this really elegant 3-phase workflow that takes your code and turns it into real, actual running infrastructure. It really just boils down to these 3 steps: code, plan, and apply. You write down what you want, Terraform shows you what it's going to do, and then it goes and does it. It's a clean, safe, and repeatable process. Let's look at each step. So first up is the code phase. This is where you just write down your wish list in a simple file. You list out all the resources you need. You might say, hey, I want 1 virtual machine, a Kubernetes cluster, and, a virtual private cloud to connect them. You're just describing that end goal, that destination for the taxi. Now for my favorite part, the plan phase. This is where the magic really happens. You run a command, and Terraform does a dry run. It looks at your code, looks at what's currently running, and gives you a preview of exactly what it's going to do. See here? It's telling us it's going to add 3 new things. There are absolutely no surprises, which is exactly what you want when you're managing infrastructure. And finally, step 3, apply. Once you've looked at the plan and you've given it the thumbs up, you run Terraform apply. Terraform then talks to the cloud provider's APIs. Think of APIs as the official messengers for these services, and it builds everything out exactly as you described. It might even hand you back something useful, like the URL to your brand new dashboard. Okay, so a question I hear all the time is, can Terraform only manage servers on, say, one specific cloud? And the answer is a huge no. And that's all thanks to its incredible pluggable design and this idea of providers. So what's a provider? It's basically a plugin. You can think of it as a universal translator that teaches Terraform how to speak the language of any specific service out there. Whether that's a cloud like IBM Cloud or AWS, or even a totally different kind of service. This is what makes Terraform so incredibly versatile. And just look at the scope of this. Providers let Terraform manage not just your basic infrastructure as a service, your virtual machines and networking, but also platform as a service, like application platforms, and even software as a service for things like your DNS with Cloudflare. It has grown to manage so much more than just servers. Okay, let's bring this all home. Why is all this so important for modern software development? Well, because Terraform lets you take a true DevOps first approach to your work. So think about this common day 2 scenario. Your app is live, it's running, and now you realize you need to add a load balancer. With Terraform, you don't have to start from scratch. You just add 1 new resource to your code. And when you run plan, Terraform is smart enough to see that everything else already exists, and it'll tell you, hey, I'm only going to add this 1 new thing. It just makes the necessary changes, nothing more. And that intelligent change management helps us solve a very common and very dangerous problem in the world of operations. And that problem is called configuration drift. Configuration drift is that scary thing that happens when, someone goes and makes a manual change directly on the cloud dashboard. Suddenly, what's actually running in the real world doesn't match the code that's supposed to be defining it. By making sure all changes go through that Terraform pipeline, you pretty much eliminate this risk. Your code becomes the single source of truth. And that brings us to one of the biggest wins of all, repeatability. Because your entire system is defined in code, you can spin up an identical copy for your development team, or for a testing environment, or for a whole new production region with total confidence. This is how you finally kill those, well, it works on my machine problems once and for all. So, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with a question to think about. When you look at your own systems, is your infrastructure truly defined and managed on purpose, or did it just kind of happen over time? Terraform gives you the power to make sure it's the former. Thanks for joining me.